Okay guys, it is patch time for Splatoon 3, mid-season patch for chill season. You can see it shining on me, but I'm not too sure if it's a good kind of shine, so it's a very, very interesting one to say the least. There's a lot of different things coming into it, some good, some bad, some that I got a lot of questions for. Okay, some that I got a lot of questions for, and I'm gonna give you guys all my thoughts about them and what I think, how some of these changes make a difference into Splatoon 3. Alright, so this patch is coming today for all you guys that are from America, and tomorrow for everyone in Europe and Japan and elsewhere, Australia, you know, time zones and stuff. So the first thing is the Aerospray. The size of terrain area inked by falling spray has been increased by about 10%, so Aerospray paints 10% a lot better, which is great because this weapon needs to be able to paint because it's kind of the whole point of the Aerospray. So there was a point during Splatoon 2 where they had nerfed the paint, where actually Aerospray was actually a decent weapon at the time. And hopefully that they get it back to that point so that I guess Aerospray could actually be used in some form or fashion. I don't think it's going to change much for the Aerospray. Of course, it can't fight that well compared to other weapons, that 5-shot kill. But just being able to paint so much better, you'd probably be able to farm Booyah Bomb just a lot faster too with this weapon now, so that's something to think about. Jet Squelcher. Okay, I see on Twitter a lot of people have been confused about what reduced blur when firing on land means. This is basically the accuracy of the weapon, so that, you know, the whole spread of the weapon is a lot tighter. So it makes it much easier for you to actually land your first couple of shots and all that type of stuff. So by 17%, that's pretty good. So Jet Squelcher is basically more accurate while you're standing. The Splattershot Nova, the size of terrain inked by shots, has been increased by about 19%. Good. Really, really good. The Splattershot Nova beforehand, paints was awful, so this buff in particular allows the Splattershot Nova to be more of a painting demon, so that's quite nice to see. Not too sure how that might change things, but that definitely does help it a whole bunch. Some of the things I wanted was for it to be a little bit more accurate, and painting was actually one of them too, so that's 1 out of 2, but at least we got the painting. At least they'll be able to get a special a little bit faster too, and it's a pretty efficient, ink-efficient weapon too, so that is that's really, really good to see. You gotta kind of look at this and think about how it changed a weapon like the Splatana Wiper, because that weapon was barely used before its painting buff, and now loads more people use it because that whole painting, I guess, suppression that comes out of the weapon. It definitely can be a difference maker when you're going into a fight, because if someone's shooting you with this like large amount of paint coverage, it's a lot harder to actually approach them, so that does make it really, really good for the Splattershot Nova. The Dynamo Roller, the damage rate reduction caused by distance has been adjusted. You can now cause 50 damage / 100 damage from farther away than before. So the damage values for depending on how far you are from a target has basically been increased. So basically it's a damage buff to the Dynamo Roller. Quite nice to see actually. It makes it a lot more consistent when you're actually flicking at people, so that's always great. I kind of still want it to have a little bit better ink efficiency because I feel that's still kind of on the weaker side of things. But maybe that this damage buff will still warrant it to not have that kind of ink efficiency. I mean, personally for me, I just want the Dynamo to just be how it was back in Splatoon 1. I mean, obviously, I'm hard copium on that because it's like 6 years ago or 5 years ago. It's a long time ago. But I really don't know why the Dynamo has not been as good as it was since Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. Like, it went to Splatoon 2 and got worse, and then it went to Splatoon 3 and it got even worse. So, come on, just make this weapon good again, like how it was, and make the Dynamo Roller mains back in the day really happy, because I think they would really appreciate that. So the big Swig Roller, the minimum damage from the horizontal slashes has increased from 30 to 35. This one's actually pretty big. So basically the minimum amount of damage that you inflict onto someone will always do about 35 damage, so it's always going to be a 3-shot kill and not a 4-shot at some point. So that's actually really good, because the whole point of using the big Swig is just using the horizontal flick. I actually want to try out the big Swig actually a little bit more, because I kind of find it fun with just doing, I guess its whole playstyle is it's quite nice. So that's very, very helpful. That's a huge damage buff to the big Swig Roller, and some might not see it like that, but it's definitely really, really nice for it. So the Bamboozler reduced ink consumption by about 17%. That's actually pretty good. Makes the weapon a lot more ink efficient. My problem is just that the weapon doesn't paint at all, but I guess being able to shoot a little bit more allows it to paint a little more, but it's just overall paint coverage is kind of terrible. Like, you can't bring this thing to splat zones, and think it's gonna work, because you're more likely to play behind the lines instead of in front of the lines. So you're kind of going to be a player that's actually going to be trying to contest the zone more often than you might, I guess, usual compared to other weapons in the game. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of a problem with the weapon, is just that weapon does not paint as much as other charges or anything like that. It paints less than the Snipe Raider, which, I mean, decently well. The Snipe Raider paints really good, but yeah, I think this weapon is in like a really weird spot. I don't think even this is going to make it more usable, or people are going to want to use it more just because of this, but it's still a nice buff. It gets something, and that's all I can really say for it. The Nautilus 47, increased firing range. Wait, increased firing... Okay, no, I said this wrong. Increased firing duration by about 15%. Okay, so this is huge. This actually makes the Nautilus even more usable than it already was. This weapon was already good. Like, it was actually a really decent weapon, and I've been seeing it being played more a lot in some compositions and all that type of stuff. And even in my team, we actually use it too. Yeah, that's a really nice buff, actually. It makes it fire more. You have longer sustainability and all that. And yeah, that's huge, actually. That's really big. I think this is actually going to allow people to probably pick it up more, because it's just extra suppression on the weapon, at least. So the Sloshing Machine, increased ink consumption by about 10%. So this is kind of a big nerf, a big deal for this weapon, because this weapon is used a whole bunch. I think what this might do is probably going to prevent people from using double Sloshing Machine comps in competitive. You might just see a lot less Sloshing Machines in general in solo, because I guess the ink consumption, the weapon's going to be less ink efficient. I don't know how many shots this is going to reduce for the Sloshing Machine, but 10% can be quite big at sometimes. So I feel like some people will still play. I don't think this makes it completely unusable. People just have to probably, like, rearrange their builds and all that type of stuff. They're probably going to have to add a little bit of main saver to be able to keep up with things. But again, like I said, it doesn't make it completely unusable. The hit radius with this thing is still pretty wide, so I think a little rearrange of how builds work, especially about like some other stuff in this game, is just basically going to play a factor to how well people will actually use this weapon now. So it's a pretty decent nerf, but it's just something that you have to now think about. Aha! So the angle shooter damage has been increased by 30 to 35, just like Big Swig, and the radius of ink coverage when striking terrain or opponents has been roughly doubled. So better painting, which is quite nice, but you don't really use this thing to paint, but that paint, when it actually inflicts someone, is basically extra suppression and probably extra damage too, just by hitting people. So that's actually really, really nice to see. The damage makes it so that you have to only throw 3 angle shooters to be able to take somebody out, but that's really, really nice, because I think there's going to be a lot more likelihood for you to actually be able to take people out with the angle shooter itself, especially if you get them weak. Someone who's, I guess, uses a Splattershot Pro is probably going to be able to take advantage of that. I wonder how this will be. Like, I wonder if this will actually, like, enable people to use the regular Slosher, well, not the regular Slosher, there's the Slosher Deco that has the marker pen and zipcaster. So that's actually quite cool to see. Angle shooter getting quite nice buff. I'm still thinking maybe 40 damage, who knows, but 35, I guess it's a thing that they want to be cautious instead of bumping something so high and then it gets kind of out of hand, just like they did with the K52 Gal back in Splatoon 2, where they increased the painting coverage for no reason, and then it just got way out of hand, became the best weapon in the game, and yeah. So we're gonna have to wait and see how this kind of develops and all that type of stuff. So we got some special weapon buffs and nerfs, so here we go. Starting with the Tacticooler. Tacticooler's quick respawn and special saver will no longer be negated by gear abilities Respawn Punisher and Haunt. Respawn Punisher and Haunt effects increase the respawn time, and then okay, just in case you don't know what they do. So that's actually pretty nice for Tacticooler, so that, you know, when you actually use the special works as intended, instead of like getting destroyed by people who use Respawn Punisher. A lot of people now these days are actually running Respawn Punisher, so that's quite nice to do for like Tacticooler. Do I think it's gonna really like make people want to use Tacticooler? No, probably not, because in practice, people don't really use the Tacticooler because it just like locates them or just makes them much more bait. And I don't know, I feel like people feel a lot more safer using other specials to be able to get things done instead of actually using themselves to actually run in there and get in there, use their mechanical skill a little bit, and just like take on pushes and all that jazz. So yeah, I think that's probably like I guess the thing that Tacticooler struggles with. I think what would make Tacticooler a little better though is that I've had a little bit of effects of Object Shredder, like maybe not the full effect where it's just like you have the full perk, because then nobody will run Object Shredder and make the whole like perk redundant, but just like half damage, so that like on certain things, like if you're going against teams that have throw too many splash balls or use too many crabs or, you know, wave breakers, all that type of stuff, then at least that, you know, you have a little bit extra damage on those types of specials and all that type of stuff. And of course, if you run Object Shredder on top of that, it means that you're doing like a whole combo where it's just like it just completely destroys and wrecks that particular special or object, you know, and all that type of stuff. So I think that would make Tacticooler, will make people want to use Tacticooler more, especially in the meta that we're in right now, where it's just like crab is crazy. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about it. Okay, so the Reefslider, they have adjusted the amount of time for invulnerability window, which occurs after exploding until you're able to move by about half a second, or close to half a second, is about 28 frames. So basically, when you dismount out of your Reefslider, basically for almost half a second, like 2 frames off half a second, you'll be basically still invincible, and you can't be instantly sniped as soon as the Reefslider pops out. I believe there's like a particular Elite video that I had where I was facing like 3 Tetradualies on one team, and you could just see me snipe them every single time they came out of their Reefsliders, like the first frame. So basically, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. I still think you'll be able to punish a Reefslider when they come out of the slider, of course. But it's going to be a little bit harder to punish now, which is nice for the Reefslider because it's just like every single time if somebody did use one, they'll just get instantly wiped out and there'll be just like nothing you can really do about it. And, you know, it's really, really easy to actually defend yourself against a Reefslider. And you just have to, you know, position yourself away and then just, you know, space it out and then you're fine. So that's quite nice for people who use Reefslider a lot. Tetradualies are going to be stronger a lot because of that. So yeah, pretty sick to see. All right, so the triple Inkstrike. Increase the radius of area damage by about 10% and increase damage inflicted by about 15%. So this is a huge buff to the Inkstrike. So basically the radius, how, I guess, wide, or I guess the form of where you can actually take damage from the Inkstrike is made a lot wider. It's not visibly wider, but I guess where you can take damage from it is a lot, you know, it's a lot easier to take damage from it, which is good because all through Splatoon 3's lifespan right now, I've always felt like I've always been able to stand right next to Inkstrike and just not take any damage and just not die. It's just like it didn't feel like it was much of a threat, but this makes it much more of a threat, so this is quite nice. And then on top of that, 50% extra damage. That's a lot more damage. That's actually quite significant if you're standing right next to it. So like, honestly, if you touch it, you're basically going to be vaporized. That's crazy, honestly. So one nice thing about this too is that it's a really, like, it makes Tentatek Splattershot so much stronger, especially if you're facing crab tanks and all that type of stuff. Like, I could see a lot more people, if they want to really take out this crab tank meta, just running Object Shredder, like Tentatek. Like, that's probably going to be the thing that we're going to see a lot more often from now. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting, really interesting to see how that defeats crab or anything like that. And speaking about crab, this is a really interesting nerf to the crab tank, and I'm pretty sure it's not really the nerf that people expected or wanted, or maybe some wanted, but personally it wasn't actually the one I wanted. So this is what we got. They shortened the duration of Crab Tank when not using the special power-up gear ability from about 9 seconds to about 8 seconds. So basically, the Crab Tank has gone from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. They've increased the extension rate of duration of the Crab Tank when using special power-up. So that's a new thing for special power specifically. So, and as they say here, as a result of these changes, the duration of Crab Tank when maximizing use of special power-up gear remains the same as before. So basically, if you filled out your entire gear build with nothing but special power-up, it will basically make up for that 1 second that you've now lost. But the thing is, I don't feel like that 1 second is going to do too much, if, I guess, depending on a good Crab Tank user's hands. So I'm not too sure, like, if people will use that much special power up. Like, of course, you're gonna have to now use it to get a little bit more duration, but I don't feel like it's gonna be entirely necessary. I think 8 seconds is still quite a long time, and I think it's needed for the Crab Tank just for it to be used. They have to be kind of careful with this because they don't, like, I don't want it to be a thing where they make Crab Tank 2 weeks where it's just unusable. So 1 second is definitely fair. And I feel like they can't get rid of any more seconds than that. Like, if they get rid of more, like, any more, then it's just, like, it makes it so that Crab Tank is just, like, you barely get any use of the special at all. Because you need it to wind up and all, and be able to shoot on all that type of stuff, so... maybe the 1 second is actually fair. Like, I don't know. I feel like they can't do any more than that. The special power up is quite nice, so it's just like if you really want to make it a little bit longer, I think people probably try to aim for like at least half a second or a quarter of a second, just more. So, you know, that gives it a little something, you know. So yeah, that's basically what they've done to the Crab Tank. I got so much more to say about it, but then, of course, we got to go through the special points. So let's go through this. So for the Splattershot, the special points have been buffed from 200 to 190. Same with the 52 gal, same with the 96 gal. Made no sense for the 52 gal, I must say, because it's just like the weapon was already really strong, but now it's just become even stronger. I guess they're buffing it because I feel like they still think the Crab Tank is probably going to be still much of a threat, so, you know, more whales for the 52 gal, that's quite nice. Splattershot Pro, 190 to 180, so that's actually really nice to the Splattershot Pro because the Splattershot Pro barely paints, so it's really hard for it to paint, and this allows it to actually get to the crab just much faster, so that's actually quite nice. The Splattershot Nova, 200 to 190. Same with the Splat Dually, so you're gonna have even, like, wow, this is actually really nice to the Splattershot Nova. Considering the painting buff that it's got, it's gonna be able to paint that's much faster, probably, so that's gonna equate for it to getting more special points just in general. So you're gonna have even more whales now. They're just gonna be popping up so much faster. The Splat Dualies, 200 to 190 as well. The Crab Tank, so yeah, the Splat Dualies under the Splasher-matic. You couldn't get Crab Tank as fast, but you can get it. It's like this. You can get it decently fast, so that's actually quite nice, especially for its own efficiency too. Since it doesn't have as well, I guess, good ink efficiency compared to like the L3 or the Splasher-matic as well. So that's actually quite nice. So it gets crab just that much faster. So that's quite nice. The Custom Splattershot Junior, yeah, I can see that 180 to 190. This weapon gets Wavebreaker really, really fast. So yeah, that is. I could honestly see them probably next pack bumping this to like 200 because I feel like Wavebreaker is such a strong special right now, and especially in the Splattershot Junior's hands, it's probably gonna get. I feel like it's gonna probably be bumped up at some point, but we'll have to see. Sloshing Machine as well, 210 to 220. I think this is probably one thing that people have been really mentioning. I think the combination of the own Sloshing Machine's nerf and this nerf as well, where it's got like 10% less ink efficiency, and then now it has to actually paint even more to get its own special. So it's gonna be way harder to get the special now because you're gonna be running out of ink and then having to build your special more. Now people are gonna have to implement special charge up and special like ink save and maim as well, just to be able to use this thing. So yeah, that's I feel like why people are saying now this weapon's probably dead, and probably I still think it's still gonna be used, but probably not two people are gonna be using it because you're gonna be pretty low on overall paint coverage, and you're probably going to be both running out of ink quite fast. So unless you both run the same build, but I still think one will still be used because the weapon itself is still really strong. Like it's still really, really solid at killing and all that other stuff. So you got to play it probably a lot more of a methodical game when you use this weapon. And the Splatoon Wiper, 180 to 190. Yeah, I can see that. The weapon got a painting buff from last patch, so yeah, that makes total sense for that. So yeah, that's fine. So this is the final nerf or buff. I'm not even really too sure what to call this one for the Ninja Squid. But Ink Splash will no longer be invisible for half a second immediately after transforming into kid form. So I'm not too sure what that completely means. I'm not too sure if they're referring to the ripple effect when you're swimming, but that would refer to you being in squid form if you're swimming, and they don't mention that. So I'm not too sure if they mean if you drop into the ink or you come out of ink and there's like a splash that comes out, or if it's like you go in the ink and there's a ripple, or... I'm so confused on the wording of that's been used here. This is not clear. It is translated. Maybe there's a mistranslation. I don't want to say anything and make people believe that this is what it means because I'm not too sure about this one, but I'm confused on it. So I'll just let you guys know that. Using the gear ability Swim Speed Up at the same time will no longer result in one of these abilities being cancelled. When using Ninja Squid, Swim Speed will now continue to be reduced by a fixed amount. Now, a lot of people are also confused on this one from the wording used here, and I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of confusing. But what I think this means is that when you use Ninja Squid, you don't get that slowdown that you had before. Don't quote me because I'm still really unsure of this. But that's what I think it means, because it also says while using Ninja Squid, swim speed will now continue to be reduced by a fixed amount, which implies that there is swim speed being affected while using Ninja Squid. But what I think that means is that when you use swim speed now, while using Ninja Squid, the swim speed effect is not going to be as strong. It's going to be reduced by a certain amount. So that is what I think it means. The wording on this is really all over the place. It's kind of hard to really understand this, but I'm just kind of putting my mind out there of what I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. That is fair. Just let us all know. Just inform us all, because we're all kind of confused on this. But yeah, and that's basically it. Other than that, it's just a bunch of bug fixes. You can read out all the bug fixes yourself, because this game has a bunch of bugs, and yeah, it's quite nice to see that these bugs are being fixed and all that type of stuff. So what do I think of this patch? So I think the patch is really interesting. Like, I feel like they are really trying to figure out ways on how to defeat Crab Tank, but I do also feel like they're also being really cautious of what they do, considering they nerfed this. Like, I guess the first prime target was a Sloshing Machine from the past couple of patches. You kind of seen them just like nerf things by a little bit each time, because I feel like they're not completely sure or what they should do with it yet, or I feel like they have an idea, but they don't want to. They want to turn it down just a little by little, if you understand me, because like I feel like if you nerf something like completely, that actually kind of hurt. Jam, I don't even know I'm strapped, but because I feel like if you nerf something too much, it's literally going to like destroy the weapon completely, and I feel like that's what they're trying to not do, because yeah, they don't want to really mess things up. So yeah, I can see the cautious approach, but one thing I definitely do gotta say, which I think is more of a problem than actual Crab Tank, is the friggin' Splashomatic. Personally, no one's seen any Splashomatic nerf, have we not? Because personally, I think the Splashomatic is the main problem, and not so much Crab Tank. Like, okay, Crab Tank reduced from 9 to 8 seconds. That's fine, and I think it's still going to be usable regardless of its nerf right now. I don't even think that nerf even really matters. But personally, I think the Splashomatic is the main problem. And they probably might do it for Season 3. But yeah, there's been no Splashomatic nerf, no special points nerf, no ink efficiency nerf, no nothing like that. This weapon's still going to be played as much as it is right now. Like, we're going to still see a lot of Splashamatics, whether it be 2 or 3 or, you know, especially in competitive play. We're still going to be seeing loads of them, so I think desperately this weapon needs a special point nerf, because the main problem is that this weapon gets Crab Tank way too much. It gets it way too much, faster than any other weapon in the game, so it definitely needs that. And it definitely needs an ink efficiency nerf so that people aren't using it as much, you know? So yeah, just basically the Sloshing Machine treatment, because I feel like if you do both those things, it's still gonna at least make the weapon strong, but like it's gonna slow down the weapon and slow down the amount of times that it can actually build it special, which is, I think, is the main problem, because no special charge up, you can get a Crab Tank in 8 seconds. It's just like, why? Why is that fair? Like, why? And one more thing that I gotta mention, which is just kind of sad to say, is just that where's the Brella buffs, dude? The Brellas are just absolutely just like in shambles right now. I'm so sorry for all of them. This is like the 4th patch that we've had, and there's still no Brella buff, dude. That's the craziest thing out of all of them. I feel so sorry for you guys, especially if you played the Splat Brella a lot in Splatoon 2. I don't know if they know about it. They fixed a couple of bugs for it, but that's about it. There's no efficiency buff, no damage buff, which is really why the Brother is struggling right now. So yeah, more power to you guys who actually still try to play the Brother regardless of this, and are still trying to make it work. But dang, it really needs a buff. I'm just saying, it really needs a buff. Not too much of a buff, but just a little bit, just to give it efficiency nerf, or not efficiency nerf, efficiency buff, just so they can do something, you know? But yeah, guys, this is basically the patch. What do you guys think of it? Just leave comments in the comment section below. Tentatex are probably going to be used a lot more. Sloshing Machine is going to be used a lot less. Splashomatic is still going to be used the same amount that I feel like it's going to be used from now. So yeah, they're being really cautious with things. I can see that. That's I feel like we're going to have to wait till Season 3, which is like March the 1st, until we see actual something. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe, like the video, follow me to Twitch, and I just flipped you guys off. Sorry. All right, have a good one, guys.